Welcome to Civic Hub, where local leadership meets big ideas. I'm Chris Marotti, and this is the podcast that brings you straight to the decision makers shaping our communities. Each episode, we sit down with local leaders, elected officials, and change makers to dive into the strategies, innovations, and challenges shaping the places we call home. In this episode, we sit down with Mike Gould, Collin County District Clerk, to hear about his journey into public service and the pivotal role his office plays in the court system. From jury selection to behind-the-scenes operation, Mike gives us a candid look at how justice gets organized. All right, well, welcome to Civic Hub. Today I'm joined with Mike Gould, Collin County District Clerk. Mike, thanks for coming on.
Hey, it's great to be here. Thanks for having me, by the way.
Yeah, love it. Let's just unpack real quick kind of your role, kind of how you got there, and just tell me a little bit about yourself and the current role that you serve under.
Well, I am the Collin County District Clerk. So in my role as District Clerk, the office itself is responsible for all of the record keeping and all of the safeguarding of documents, of preservation of the 15 district courts in Collin County. So every county has a varying number of district courts, whether it be one district court that is rotated through 3 counties, let's say, because if it's a very small county, they'll just have one district court, or like our county where we have 15 district courts. And so those 15 district courts are general jurisdiction, which means they handle civil, family, and criminal cases. 7 of those courts handle exclusively criminal, but they also can handle the family and the civil side of things. Then we have certain courts that are identified as being just civil or just family, but they can all handle all. Typically, that's why they're general jurisdiction courts. So in every county, you've got the county courts at law, you've got the district courts, and you've got the JP courts or justice of the peace courts. So it goes from bottom to top. It'll go JP at the lowest level. That's your evictions. That's your small claims like $2,000, that kind of thing. Disputes with neighbors. You'll commonly see that there. And then you get up to the county courts at law, which can handle misdemeanor. Most misdemeanor cases could be a DUI. Could be again smaller amounts like $20,000 up to a certain amount is what they do. It's up to a certain amount. And then you get to district courts, which is the highest court in the county. So the district court in any county is going to handle, felony convictions. Could be up to life. Could be death sentences. I mean, these are the big court cases. Mm-hmm. All of your divorce cases go through family courts and the district courts. So name changes, adoptions, or go through district courts. And you've also got civil cases, big civil cases. So sometimes they're multi-million-dollar lawsuits. That will be heard by a district court as well. Jury trials can happen at all levels of all your courts, the JP courts, the county courts of law, and the district courts. So not only are we responsible for the record keeping, and we are the record keepers of the district courts exclusively. So if somebody comes in, they file. An attorney, let's say, files paperwork into the district court that comes straight into our office. We put a timestamp on it when we received it. We look it over to make sure it's accurate. Then we file it into the court. Now it's accessible to the court, to the attorneys, to the plaintiffs, to the defendants. Everybody can see that record now. And then we keep it there electronically filed. As far as any other responsibilities we have, so we have quite a few because we do, we have appellate clerks which handle appeals exclusively. We have an expunctions clerk, and they handle expunctions as they come through. We have an area that's tax. We have an area that's AG, that's child support. Mm-hmm. We also handle one of the bigger roles, one of the more fun roles that I have is we handle jury summons for the entire county. So that works a little bit different, too, because I think out of the 254 counties, you'll find 254 ways to do jury service. Mm-hmm. And so jury service, as it happens in the county, we summon jurors for JP, for the county courts, and for the district courts, all 3. So that comes through our office. And then if you're summoned to a JP, because we have 4 JP courts in our county because we're so large in area, and they're located throughout, so we'll send you to one of those. So if you're summoned, you'll go directly to that JP courtroom. County courts of law, same thing. We have 7 of those. So typically when you're summoned, you'll come to the courthouse and you'll go straight to that courtroom. But the district courts are where we actually bring them into the jury room. We'll do exemptions, disqualifications. We'll prepare them for what to expect for their day, and then depending on how many we have, we can have anywhere up to 550 people sitting in that jury room at one time. And as a court does it, what they'll do is they'll order more jurors than they need, obviously. We got to get 12 viable jurors, 12 impartial parties, if you will. And that's sometimes the pool is 80 people to get just down to those 12. So that's how they do it. It's a more interesting aspect. But we also handle passports through the district clerk's office. That's by statute, we may operate a passport acceptance facility, which there are several of us in the state who do that as well. But that's a huge overview. I know that's a lot.
Yeah.
I unpacked a lot for you just in that first opening segment.
So 15 district courts, that's a lot. Texas is set up to create district courts by population. So when we zoom out and we look at Collin County, kind of what's the overview of your demographic? You know, how many folks are there? Is it rural, industrial? I know you're considered part of the DFW Metroplex, kind of on the northeastern side. Give us a little kind of overview of, you know, the demographics of your county that contribute to why you have 15 district courts.
Well, I think the interesting thing about Collin County is it's a great cross section of the American profile of what we're becoming as America. It's such a diverse population through there. We've got from all cultures all over the place. But we started. I mean, right now we're hovering just right around 1.2 million population here in 2025. I think the population estimates put us near closer to the 1.5 million mark as we approach 2030. So that growth is exponential. And we've got one of the largest, fastest growing cities in America, and that's in Salina, Texas. It was just mentioned in the news not too long ago. Collin County's always been a very rapidly growing area just because of its location to the DFW Metroplex, which puts us in the northern county, which Denton would be just to our west, and Denton County is also growing that rapid expansion from Fort Worth. So you see Tarrant County, Denton County kind of connected, Dallas County, Collin County really connected. So, and then we're getting back to that point of rural urban. Yes, we're both. I mean, there's huge urban sprawl going on right now in Collin County. You get down to the southern portion of Collin County, it's all filled in. You got Plano, you got Wiley, Murphy, you got all these areas down along there. And then as you move northward, then you get to McKinney, Allen. As you know, those are huge cities. Frisco up to the west is huge. Prosper, Salina as you go to the north. And then as you get out more to the east, I would say the northeast is where the more rural areas are. So that's where you're going to see a lot of expansion. Just past Anna and Melissa as you move up 75, or Melissa then Anna, then you'll see kind of over to that east side. That's where the expansion is really going to happen. And they do expect a huge population growth.
Yeah. Real interesting because when people think of Texas, they have very mixed views of what Texas is and don't really understand that a lot of the counties in the DFW Metroplex and a lot of those cities are some of the fastest growing population masses within the United States. And the diversity that's within those counties is phenomenal.
Well, I'll just take it back to the very start. So, in 1846, we have our first criminal case document that is preserved with the county, that our office has preserved, and it's a criminal case document from 1846. And at the time that it was signed, it was known as the Republic of Texas. So we weren't even the state back then. And then it was Fannin County, wasn't even Collin County back then. So that's how it was. That whole area up north and here in Texas has been just big anyway. And then as they started dividing it off, now a little trivia factoid for you: Colin McKinney, who is one of 7 signers of the Texas Declaration of Independence, was the oldest signer of the Texas Declaration of Independence. And not only that, but being the elder signer, they gave him the table it was signed on and the quill that it was used to sign, which his family still owns to this day. And Colin McKinney, obviously, who Collin County is named after. The McKinney is the county seat in Collin County.
Interesting. Yeah. So, when we look at your role, you've engaged to be part of this family of civic government. What kind of drove you to make that decision to run for office, and what was that process like? If there's someone out there listening right now that's thinking about, I want to get involved in civic engagement, I want to run for office, I don't really understand what local government does, I want to learn more about it. Kind of what was that stepping stone, and what was your experience life that drove you into local government to become a successful elected official?
Well, I think being a successful elected official only happens after you take the office, obviously, and then it depends on how you run your office. But walking back, the thought on what you were just bringing up was that, as I ran for office, I've always been civically engaged. I think even as a young man in school, doing debate team and just really driven by that. Just it was exciting for me to learn about new laws and to debate these new laws or look at old laws and see how they can be changed. But then as I moved to North Texas in 1995, I was not active in my party at the time. And then as we moved into 1998 to 99 is when I really started voting and getting involved with the party and started looking at clubs and things of that nature and how can I be more civically involved. I was wanting to stay engaged. And then in 2000, when we bought our first home in Frisco, Texas, I really became more involved at that point and started going to club functions and I was president of one of the clubs and then I was secretary of another and just started really getting involved. And I found that the more I got involved and the more that I was giving back to the community, even through civic engagement through your club, and the clubs are more than about meeting. They're raising awareness of certain causes, or we had charity drives. I mean, we'd had all kinds of things. So we were a very active part of our community. But as things went, and I was looking at a run for office early on in 2000, and I thought, and I had some people in the party that were saying, hey, you know what, you might be the next good this or that and the other. And I was just like, I was raising 2 small boys at the time with my wife, and I just said, no, I don't want to do that. I just want to be a family man. And then in 2015, I actually did end up running for Collin College Board of Trustees. So little factoid is that I went to Collin College and earned my associate degree. I started my degree search at 18 years old in 1987. And I flunked out of college my first semester. It's nothing I'm proud of, but it's definitely a learning experience. Mm-hmm. But it took me 26 years to finish my associate degree. I never stopped. It was either one class here, one class there. But it took me a long time to get that associate degree and walk across the stage, and I was proud of it. So in 2015, I wanted to tell my story to other adults and say, hey, look, you too can do this and pursue it. So I chose to run for Collin College Board of Trustees, and I lost that race. It was a 4-person race for that particular seat, and I lost to a really great guy, by the way, who's a phenomenal guy that took over that position. And that was my first foray into running for politics. And then at that point, I just kind of stayed involved, engaged, and did block walking, did some rallies, did some other things, but just kind of stayed engaged. And then in 2019, I want to back it up a minute, 2021, I'm trying to think of what year it was. So it's probably 2021 late that I had heard about the district clerk's office in Collin County. It was having some issues with the current leadership, and I just kind of thought, well, I can do it better. And you're talking about a guy who's never held a job in county government. All my experience has always been external. So I've got good experience with people, processes, and systems. And I've taken that I said, well, I can apply this to county government, I'm sure, and I can help turn this office around. And that's exactly what I did. So I sat with a mentor of mine, and she had been a friend of mine. She's still a friend of mine to this day, but she's the one that introduced me into politics in 2000, 2001. And I sat with her at a restaurant, and this was the day before Thanksgiving, and I looked at her and I said, I'm thinking about running for this office, and I don't know what your thoughts are. And she said, no, I think you should. She said, I think you're the right guy for it. And she's very well connected, and she's like, no, I think this is definitely you, Mike. This is something you can take on and handle. And she says, I believe you have the ethics to do it, and I believe you have the faith to do it, and I believe you have the drive to go in there and make a change. And so with that in mind, I filed for office. I paid my filing fee, I filed. And then, of course, there were 3 other people in the race. There was me, the incumbent, and 2 others. And as we went through primary season in 2022, it was definitely scary. I mean, in March, we were running up this, here I was standing out at polling locations, and I was handing out my little push cards that I made on my home computer. I had $0 in my campaign account. I had 0 signs out. I had 0 T-shirts made. I didn't have anything. Plus, I had a preteen daughter at the time. She's going to school. I've got her activities to do. Plus, I'm working 2-3 jobs just to make ends meet at the time, because I was off contract at that point, and I was back doing some other stuff just to kind of do the campaigning in between everything else. It was a lot of juggling, but I went in with $0, and I remember the leader of the party. She one of the executive director of the party. She came driving through in her little 4Runner, and she saw me out there. She goes, "Mike Gould, how you doing?" I said, "I'm doing good." She says, "Well, I love you, and I really hope you do well, but you don't have a single yard sign out. So let me tell you something. You're not going to win." And I went, "Okay, I appreciate that. Thank you." She goes, "I don't mean to bring you down, but that's just the truth of it." And I went, "Okay." So if I can say anything about that, is that the one thing I do brag about is that I ran a primary campaign without any money, and I won. I didn't win the primary. I tied the incumbent, which put us into a runoff. And then when we got in the runoff, then I got endorsements, and then I raised about $3,000. It wasn't a whole lot. And then I bought my 4x4s, got those out. I got some yard signs out, and I had some stuff going behind me. And then it all came crashing down right before the November election, or right before the runoff election in, I think it was in June or July of that same year of 2022. My opponent had put out a hit piece on me, and it was a pretty bad hit piece. I was arrested for a DUI in 2006. Not proud of that either. A life lesson, of course. Never convicted of it. Was convicted. They gave me a obstructing a roadway passageway, which is a misdemeanor, like a parking ticket, if you will. But I was very blessed and fortunate that happened, and that was a change in my life that needed to happen. So I've never said, "Well, geez, I wish it didn't happen," because it did, and it taught me a lot of things as a young man. But she brought that mugshot out. She put it right next to her pretty picture on a poster, and then underneath that, she listed out about 13 things that were wrong with Mike Gould. And then under hers, she was Miss Picture Perfect and law degree, and her husband's got a law degree, and her son's in this, and her husband's ex-military. And I mean, obviously, she's the incumbent. She's fighting for her job. I get it. But when you pull my family into it, that's when it gets dirty, and that's when I just prayed. I fell to my knees and prayed and just said, "God, just take me out of this. I don't want to do it anymore." My daughter was crying every day going to school because she saw those signs out sitting by the polling locations. And she goes, "Dad, I had my friend come up to me and said he saw an ugly picture of you on this poster over there right across the street from the school." And I said, "I'm really sorry." And she said, they were just making fun of you, Dad, and it just hurt my feelings. And I just said, I'm sorry. So it was really, really tough on her. And I just said, "Just take me out of this, God. I don't want to do it anymore. I mean, I just don't. This is not worth it. You know, watching my daughter be broken down like this, it was just horrible." And I prayed about it, and I wrote a letter to my precinct chairs and to the people that were following my campaign, and I wrote this letter, and I sent it. All right, I was ready to hit send, and there's a good friend of mine. She's my daughter's godmother, and she said, "Let me just review all your campaign material." And so I wrote this letter and said, "Here's what I'm going to send out in response to this horrible campaign that she put out on me." And she received it. 10 minutes later, she calls me back. She says, "Okay, do you feel better about that?" And I said, "Yeah, that's really, really good. That's a lot of pressure off me." And she said, "Okay, I want you to hit delete. Don't send that. That's not who you are. You're not this spiteful, hateful person you're coming out on this letter being." So we waited a day, prayed about it some more, and then put our letter together. As soon as and by the way, I am my campaign manager. At the very end, and when I got into the general election in November, I did have a campaign manager at that point. But at this point, that letter went out on Saturday, and I think that kind of turned everything because everybody saw this letter and they went, "You know what, we totally get it because, you know, this is an unfair attack on you. This is, you know, you're attacking – I was attacking her, but the things that weren't being accomplished in office, but she was attacking me personally as a human being." And I think a lot of people saw that as reprehensible and just said, "Nope, you know what, the grassroots here in Collin County, we're not standing for it." And they swung the vote my way. So I ended up winning the runoff election, then off into the general election, and then after that, rest is history. The most, the most real, I guess, surreal day of my life was taking the oath of office on January 1st. So, and then stepping into the shoes to do it. And that was a tough thing to do, is stepping into an office of unknown. I mean, I didn't know anything about being district clerk. I knew what a district clerk did just by research online, but outside of that, there was not a lot. There was not a lot there that I can tell you that they don't give you a big book.
No training.
They do have what's called the district clerk Bible, and I think they have the county clerk Bible as well that our organization puts together for us. And that's really what you look at, you know, for statute and for kind of guidance and these things. And they do have a preparing to take office workshop that the Texas Association of Counties puts together, and they do that. I did that I think in November before I took office. It was right after I got elected, or I was the district clerk elect. But everybody in my office, the very first thing, and ask my good friend Stacy Kemp, she'll remember this meeting. I think that before I even took office, there were 2 leaders in my office, or 3 leaders in the office. There was the chief deputy and 2 senior administrators, and they sat with me and they said, Mike, we know that you're coming into office, but we want to know, do we have our jobs? Are you going to fire us right away? And I said, why would I fire you? You're like the heart of the office. You know what's going on here. I'm not going to fire the most valuable assets I have to me, in my arsenal right now. So they were patient with me. They let me come in. They let me make mistakes. They like some of my harebrained schemes and ideas, and the other ones they just kind of went, okay, yeah, that sounds good, Mr. Gould. You do what you want to do, because you're the elected official, by the way. It's going to fall on you if it doesn't work. And I'm well aware. So, But that's the story from really beginning to where we are today. It's just, there's been obviously a lot of ups and downs with the office. There's been more ups and more successes than I've had downs. So for sure. I mean, there's only been a couple of days where I walk away going, okay, we could have done that a lot differently. But now it's just like we go in every day high-fiving each other and just working as a team. And we have 91 people now that work in the office. So, it's a big staff. It's not the biggest staff in the county, but still a big staff. We work together on budgets. We work together on everything we do. On every day that I come in, we're working on something, either a process improvement or people improvement, because HR is a big part of what you do, because you have to know how to interview people. You have to know how to interact with employees. If you come in and you treat your employees like they're just, they're county employees, that's not the right way to do it, because, they're going to get a paycheck from the county just like anybody else is. But they're also people that you have to work around every day, that you have to understand they have their problems on their other side of that desk, on the other side of that wall. So you've got to have compassion as a leader. You've got to have the drive to want to go in there and deal with that every day, though. I'm very blessed in the fact that I have a great senior staff. So I've got my chief deputy and 3 senior administrators. Most counties have a district clerk, and then they have a chief deputy or some kind of a chief position, and they only have 2 or 3 other people. And that's how the district clerk runs. So I'm blessed to have as many as I have to help me get the job done every day. Other district clerks don't have that. And then the smaller counties, we have what's called combo clerks, where you have a district and county clerk, because the county is so small that it can roll up into the one combo position. So there you go. That's a lot. I know.
Yeah. So when you look at kind of the variety of roles within your office, what do you see as challenges facing the office in the next 3 to 5 years? Do you see it as the growth in the county? Do you see it as implementing new technology? Every day we talk about AI and machine learning. How does that integrate into your office? Are you thinking about that? What's kind of your roadmap if you were to lead kind of an innovation charge for the office? Because one of your drivers was, I can do better. What are some of those I can do better ideas that you're thinking about, or that you've adopted, or you're trying to implement, or that you want to implement as you complete your tenure as clerk?
So that's a great question, because we're dealing with that every day. The AI stuff is incredible. The stuff we're seeing. We have an AI piece that we're getting ready to hopefully start researching. E-File Texas was mandated for all filings, all court filings in Texas in 2016. So now you have to go through the e-file system in Texas in order just to file a case in. Well, what we do on our end is we pull those over and we pull those into our case management system. We look at them, we stamp them, we do all that. They have an AI technology now that's going to automatically make that pass-through happen to allow my clerks to focus more on the work of their courts than focus on all the filing stuff. So that's great. That AI technology is phenomenal. We've seen an AI technology that was that we had actually looked at, and it was a phone system technology. And so it's just like the voice trees that you know about today, but this one was more interactive and very spooky almost, because it's real life person. It's like, hi, my name is so-and-so. Well, thank you for calling the district clerk's office. My name is so-and-so. How can I help you today? Oh, well, I'd like to talk to somebody about my case. Okay, great. What's your case number? And I mean, you're talking to somebody, but it's not. It's a computer, and it's like they're learning and they hear you.
Yeah.
It's very, very cool, But I've always been about cutting edge. I think technology is going to be that Collin County is I would like to say we're the leader in Texas for counties that are the most advanced, because there's a large company that handles a lot of case management software. They handle jury software. They handle a lot of that stuff, and that company is headquartered in Collin County. And that company started with Collin County developing case management systems. So we were actually partnered with them, if you will, in a way, to develop out something that would work for not just us but for everybody. And so we've been on that cutting edge since the very, very beginning of all the automation that's going on right now as well. So we're staying kind of forefront of that. So we go to conferences, a lot of AI stuff that we're looking at as well. We're looking at kiosks. We're looking at so many different ways to make our offices more accessible to constituents of Collin County, because that's my job, is to make sure that if you want to file a case, or if you need paperwork on a case, or if you need to talk to somebody, then we're here. We don't care if it's after hours. We're here, right?
Yeah.
That's kind of where I'm going with this. There's a lot of protective orders, a lot of TROs that are done after hours, right? And so you got to have a judge sign them. Then there's a lot of after hour stuff that does have to happen. And right now, after hours, sometimes it's hit or miss. But once you get some AI technology going as well as automation, then you're going to have that push of a button and it's done. So I'm very much looking forward to that. And a lot of people have come back around to me and said, well, does this mean that you're not going to be hiring, or does this mean that you're going to have to lay people off and let the robot do the job? Absolutely not. I don't think there's ever a question about that, because ultimately when we get to that point, if it's 20, 30, 40, 50 years from now, I'll be dead and gone. But ultimately, it's like I want to make sure that we set this office up in a way for growth that's a positive growth area as well. So that as you pull more people in, that those people are doing work in the right areas, that you don't need them over here doing this anymore, because AI's got that. Now we can reassign them and retask them to certain other areas that we do need the help in.
Yeah. Adoption of AI will really not replace individuals. It will just augment how effective they are, how efficient they are, and we'll just get that time cycle cut down, so that that restraining order can be processed almost in real time, instead of saying to somebody, hey, this has to go before a judge in the morning. It can get almost processed that night, which that is pretty fascinating technology if we can get there.
Well, you look at blood warrants that are done now. So a blood warrant means that they're going to pull a blood alcohol level on you, right? And so what they'll do is they do that on like these no refusal weekends, things of that nature, where they have to have a stand. I think they're doing blanket blood warrants for the weekend, that kind of thing, but sometimes blood warrants come in well after hours. I mean, those got to be signed, and you got to get them back in a timely manner so that you can get the evidence you need, or that the policing agencies can get the evidence that they need.
Yeah.
So you're right. I mean, that's going to be huge. It's about getting that done as well.
Yeah. So that your constituents, or what we'll term the general public, what do you think the most common interaction they have with your office? Is it they've received a jury summons in the mail? Do you think it's that? Do you think it's if they actually need documents, or if they have to file a case, or if they're going through some part of the legal system? Or do you think that touch point for most people is revolving around jury trials, jury summonses?
It's a great question, because it's changed a lot too, because just to let you know that our jury summons, because we have 15 district courts now, we used to have 12. Or we used to have 13. Sorry, 13 district courts when I took office. Then there were 2 that were put in place by the 88th legislature. They gave us the 493rd and the 494th district courts. So those came online. Well, that of course, you add 2 more courts, you're still adding X amount of jury trials per year now. So now your jury trials go up. But yeah, jury's the main. That's probably the number one way that we'll interact with jury. And I'm different than a lot of other district clerks, because I take a huge interest in jury. Ultimately, I like to make sure when people come into our large courthouse, they know where they're going. So I am the district clerk that you'll see on the front steps of the courthouse, directing traffic every Monday morning for almost an hour and a half, telling people where to go.
Do you have summonses every month? Is that your jury summons days?
That's our largest jury summons days. We do them every day of the week, though. So, like,
oh, wow.
we can't have them every day of the week. I know the different counties, like larger counties especially, like Tarrant County, Dallas County, I think even Travis County, I think they have jury call pretty much every other day, and they're large jury calls. Our largest is on Mondays, typically 500 people, 400 to 500 people. And sometimes it'll be too much in the morning. We'll have to put some of those into the afternoon. So we'll have, this many courts that are calling in the morning, and then we'll have a couple of courts call in the afternoon. So we have, that's Monday through Friday, but Monday's typically the larger one. That's where you'll find me kind of standing out directing traffic, because remember, we have one courthouse. I say remember, but I didn't tell you that. But a lot of people don't know this. We have one courthouse. And the one courthouse we have houses all 15 district courts and all 7 county courts at law.
Wow.
So when you're getting a jury summons to come in to see us on a Monday, you're going to one of 2 places, district court or county court at law. And they're, if you're going to county court at law, I said it earlier, you're summoned directly to that courtroom. So that means if you're going to court 4, you're going to go down here, down this hallway. But if it just says central jury room, then you're going to go down this other hallway. So a lot of people come in and look at the jury summons, kind of looking around. Well, that's why I'm standing there. Hey, where are you going? Oh, I'm going to court 5. Okay, that's up on the 2nd floor, right up here. Take a right. You're right there. Check in with your bailiff, and you'll see me doing that every Monday morning. I mean, I'm not naive. I do this for a reason, because I have 500 constituents that are going to see my face and know my name by the end of the day.
Yeah.
And trust me, when it comes up to re-election time, that's important for me. But it's important for them to know that I'm there to answer their questions as well.
Yeah, and for a lot of people, that might be the first time they've ever gone to the courthouse.
That's
and it can
correct.
be pretty intimidating. You've received this legal notice in the mail, and there's some penalties associated with you just either ignore it or throw it away or pretend you didn't get it. So yeah, that touch point can be very intimidating if that's the first time you have to go to this large official federal-like looking building.
Well, and I want to make a public service announcement now that you brought that up, because it's very important for me to state this, is that if you get a jury summons, just suck it up, go to jury service. You may not even be chose to be impaneled on the jury. Your likelihood, remember, if they're calling 80 people to go up to a courtroom to have voir dire done, or voir dire, however you say it, they say it different ways in Texas, by the way, than around the country. So that's why I said it those 2 ways. But if you go into voir dire and you're going to go up to the courtroom, out of those 80 people, they're only looking for 12. So the likelihood you're going to be chosen depends on your juror pass number sometimes. Sometimes you just, they'll take the first 12, and that'll be done. And everybody else gets to go home that day. So a lot of people, I think, have this fear in their mind, if you will, that they're going to be trapped there all week long, that, they're going to be sequestered to a hotel room with people they don't like. I mean, it's just the...
It's not the movies.
No, it's not. And it's played out so differently. Most of our jury trials in Collin County, fair to say, our judges do a really great job. We have 15 of the best judges, I think, in the state of Texas, just because the way they do trials, the way they hear these trials, the way that they get them going through, and it's not about expediency. It's about accuracy. It's about making sure that all the facts are there, make sure that everything's done a certain way, and they're also buttoned up. And so to watch them go through these jury trials is amazing to me, because they can turn around and pretty much have the attorneys present and then have everything going and get wrapped up in a couple of days. I mean, that's huge, especially for a juror that's got that's a daily worker that's losing pay to be there every day, because we get it. That happens. And a lot of times if you're a juror, you can walk up to the judge and say, "Judge, I'm losing $100 an hour being here today. I can't lose that much money in a day." The judge is more likely going to go, "Okay, no worries, go away. You're good." So
That's
just
not
as
the
a
mentality in Dallas County.
it's not. So I think just as a PSA for potential jurors out there, just go. And if you can't do it, then let the judge know you can't do it. But there's no reason to get frustrated at the district clerk or my jury clerks, because we can't do anything. There's only so much we can let you go for. And that's why we do our exemptions and qualifications there. But I guess going way back now to answer the other part of that question, you said, what is it they'll come into the district clerk's office for? So jury service is probably the most that they'll see us. Pro se or self-represented litigants are also the other thing. So let's say I'm filing for divorce, and I'm doing it. I want to do it myself. My wife and I have agreed. Hey, you know what? We got no kids. We really just going to split all the assets or all the debt or whatever. Let's just walk through ourselves. Well, there's forms you can fill out and just come in and pay your filing fee, and then you start the divorce process, and then it starts through the district court system, and then they you file answers, and you kind of you go to the hearings, and it just kind of walks you through it. So as you can save yourself the attorney fees if there's no reason to get an attorney involved. Unfortunately, divorce cases are not that easy all the time, which is why we have great divorce attorneys as well. But then we have a law library downstairs to assist you in that, because we won't give legal advice. And that's the number one thing that constituents will come to us for. They'll go, well, I filed this paperwork on this day, and I haven't heard back from the court. When should I hear back from the court? We're like, well, we can't give you that information because we're just the clerk. Literally, we take your paper, we file it, we stamp it, then we file it. give you copies and send you on your way. If you fill out a blank wrong, we're probably going to say, we can't take this because you need to fill that in. Well, what should I put there? Well, we can't tell you that. But, go to the law library downstairs. They can help you out. And we do have what's called self-represented litigant clinics, pro se. I try to get away from the word pro se because somewhere in Texas it's like, okay, we're going to get away from that word. But pro se, we have pro se clinics at one of our district court rooms, by the way, and that's every Thursday. And so if you're representing yourself, you can come in there and ask attorney questions.
Oh,
it's a great resource to have.
Yeah, that is good.
So, but anyway, yeah, those are really the two reasons that you'll ever see the district clerk, or to come get your passport.
Yeah. When we look at the role of your office, you interact heavily with probably the Bar Association, attorneys on both sides, whether they're representing individuals, entities, they could be representing the county itself in a suit. You're interacting with judges. How do you maintain good relationships there? What are some tips and tricks that you could give maybe your peers or that you've picked up over the years, leadership skills? Because, we all go, everybody lives and goes into the same courthouse, has the same outcomes. How do you manage those relationships with those judges, with those attorneys, to try and keep it civil, positive, to where it's efficient for the constituents?
I think that's a great question. Very valid, by the way, because the fact that is one of the hurdles that we face is that, look, I have judges that'll come to me and say, hey, Mike, we really need you to start pushing these cases through because, your clerks are sitting on it or whatever. We're not sitting on anything. We're just backed up on work, and that's all there comes to it. I mean, you've got, we're taking in, on any Monday we take in, and pull back the curtain a little bit. We take in about,
what's your caseload? Like, what does that look like?
So e-file Texas, when we get into e-file in my civil family area, our civil family area only, we'll take in about, we'll look at anywhere from 800 to 1,200 filings on a Monday. I mean, that's where we start. We start at that. Now, by mandate or by statute, we have to get those done within a 24-hour time period of the filing. That's on a business day. That's on a work day. So if you come in and let's say you e-file Friday at 5 o'clock, okay? That's after we're closed. That means your paperwork sits there Saturday, Sunday, and then Monday morning when we come in, we'll start getting to it, kind of depending on where we are in the queue. Now, I've got 30 civil family clerks, so I've got 15 courts. Each court has 2 clerks. Mm-hmm. So each of those clerks works those e-files first, then they go into their courts and start working their caseload in their court. So it's a little bit different how we have it set up than other counties. Not every county is going to be the same, again, because the caseloads are different. Dallas County's got a much higher caseload than we have. Tarrant County has a much higher caseload than we have. But that doesn't mean that they do it, that they're doing it better. I mean, we just do it the way we do it. We're obviously looking for ways to improve in efficiency and also to make sure accuracy. Accuracy is our number one goal because we never want to send a document off to a court that's inaccurate because if we do, then shame on us for clerks not checking our work and being diligent at that. So I employ 5 QC clerks or quality control clerks that sit there and do nothing but look at documents every day of every clerk that my deputy clerks send through so that way they can check it for accuracy so it doesn't come back around to us again. I've got criminal clerks that are on my 3rd floor. My criminal clerks they're inundated with so much right now. I mean, just as far as on a daily basis, that I've got to probably look in the next 2 budget cycles of just getting them kind of court partners. Because all my criminal clerks, remember I told you at the very beginning, I have 7 courts that handle criminal exclusively. So that gives them one clerk per court on that. So that's 7 criminal clerks. So civil family, you look at, I've got 2 down there because of the caseloads, right? So you're looking civil, family. I mean, they can handle either. Criminal caseloads a lot heavier, but we've only got 1 clerk per court, so we're looking at doubling that load. And then I've got grand jury intake. Grand jury intake's crazy. I mean, sometimes the grand jury, we sit 2 grand juries every week, one on Tuesday, one on Thursday, and every time we sit a grand jury, they're passing through probably about they're billing about probably anywhere from 40 to 150 indictments per sitting. And I mean, we're talking in Collin County right now, a lot of drug charges. But so you look at it, that's 300 cases at the max, 300 cases a week that they're indicting that we're sending up to grand jury intake on the criminal level. So again, the workload is just a lot. I mean, there's a lot
so
there.
It's safe to say probably maybe intake between all of the courts, probably a couple thousand cases every week.
I would say I'd say it's safe. Well, and when we say a couple thousand a week, it's a misnomer. So I want to make sure that I back that up a little bit because of the fact that not everything that comes across e-file is a new petition, right?
Oh, it could be in addition to a previous
right.
case.
It could be a motion. It could be any kind of something else. But that's still 2,000 pieces of paperwork that are coming through. That we got to get through and process in and make sure that the courts have visibility to it, make sure the attorneys have access to it. And that's the other thing. So judges, I guess I walked you through that just to show you that kind of the wall that we have inside the office. But then the judges, they're just really pulling from their queue and they're really trying to move cases through, bless their heart. They're trying to deal with people that are just, not being reasonable. They're dealing with tough attorneys sometimes. The attorneys, on the other hand, they're the other part of this, and like you said, we get along great with all 15 of our judges. There's not a single judge that I can't walk up to and say, hey, judge, sorry about this, or we're really working on that, and they'll be like, hey, man, just tell us what we need to do on our end. Same thing with the attorneys, where we've got some great attorneys that just know that we're backed up in certain areas, and they're just going to go, hey, you know what? If you can get to this, that's great. If not, don't worry about it. And we'll have unreasonable attorneys that are going to go, well, I just filed this. I filed this yesterday. I'm going, sir, we got about 300 other cases to e-file in before we get to yours. What makes yours more important? I mean, is it life and death, and we need to get a TRO going? Do we need to get something else, a restraining order, or what do we got to do? So I think that's really where we are with attorneys. I think most everybody that we've dealt with in Collin County, or everybody I've dealt with in Collin County has been very workable, been very doable. They've been very patient with me. It's my first term in office, my third year, my first term, and trust me, you come in as the new guy, and it's baptism by fire. You go or you go home. I mean, you get up and you start going right away. And I started getting my education real quick from the judges, from my deputy clerks in the office, from attorneys that would even, I'd have a question. Hey, let me ask you a question. Okay, yeah, sure. Well, what is it that you And I take a lot of those leads and I run with them. Yeah.
So it sounds like really just being open and transparent with everybody
absolutely
has helped build those relationships and maintain them.
And I think as an elected official, you should always be open and transparent. Period. I think if you come to the table and you say that you know it all and you don't, then that's bad on you. Mm-hmm. Look, we've had enough district clerks. I think we've had enough elected officials, period, that have come into office with egos that say, I know exactly what I'm doing, and fire everybody or hire new staff and do this big turnover thing. I'm sorry, if your ego is that big, that's too big for your office. You need to go. Period. I think as an elected official, you stay honest, you stay ethical, you stay above board, and most of all, you tell your not only your deputy clerks what you expect of them every day, and you be sincere about it, but you also show them the respect that they deserve for being there all these many years. I think I've got 2 people in my office. One has been there 30 years, and another's been there 29 in our office, and that's a long time. I mean, that's even long before I even thought about being a district clerk. So those people held the line, and they've done their job, and you owe them the utmost respect just going in. There's no way I'm going to walk into somebody that's got 29 years and in my office and go, well, what do you do? Okay, well, I don't want you to do that anymore. You're going to go do this over here instead. You leave them alone. Let them do their job. As long as they're doing it right and as long as they're efficient about it, then let them do it. Yeah,
acknowledging that institutional knowledge in a elected office like that, an important office, is highly helpful and valuable for the office.
You have to. I mean, you absolutely have to. If you're thinking about running for office, you got to think about 2 things. You got to think about the people you're going to be working with, and you got to think about the people that you're working for. So as an elected official, I don't have a boss. My boss is the taxpayer. My boss is and everybody. It's real funny because when you become an elected official, you don't really think about it, because you think about the hierarchy. It's like, okay, well, who do you answer to as an elected official? I don't answer to anybody, because I don't answer to the county judge. I don't answer to the county clerk. I don't answer to anybody. I answer to me. I answer to the constituents first, and then after that, then I need to work with the county judge. I need to work with the county commissioners. I need to work with the county clerk in order to get where I need to go.
Yeah.
You could walk in there with a big ego and just go, I got this, and then next thing you know, it's like everybody's going, we don't want to deal with him.
Yeah.
So if you're going to run for elected office, just know who you're working for and who you're working with, because that's very important.
Yeah.
What are you? Oh,
Yeah, great insight, Linda.
What are you most looking forward to with respect to the next election cycle? Because that first time around, you navigated a really steep learning curve. And now that you've kind of been in office and you've made some changes and you've seen kind of how things operate, like, what do you think you'll do differently this next time around?
Well, I'll be honest with you. I mean, ultimately, I look at in 2026, which is when my seat's up for reelection. Look, I didn't make any promises in campaign that I couldn't keep. I made more like some remarks. I said, like, passport offices were closed in 2019 in Collin County, and if elected as your district clerk, I'm going to try and go get those back for you. That's what I said. I didn't say I'm going to go get them. I said I'm going to try. Mm-hmm. That way, if I don't succeed in getting them open, because I knew there were hurdles there, and I knew if I didn't succeed in getting them open, that could go against me. But I said I could only try, and I tried my best, and that's all I could give you. Well, a year and a half after taking office,
you did succeed.
I did succeed, but I didn't stop either. You know, you have to be driven as somebody that's running for office of your goals. You can't just go in there going, well, I'm just going to run so I can run for my next cycle, You know, I've accomplished a lot in this one. Even in 2 years, I've accomplished a lot. So as far as the next election cycle is concerned, I'm going to get out there and run like I did before, but I'm going to look at making advancements and improvements in both technology and as far as where the office is going as far as expansion, because we're growing so fast that we got to keep up with it. We got to stay well ahead of the curve. We just did a 5-year lookout on this budget cycle where we're actually looking at expansion plans. Well, the courthouse, anybody can go on Collin County webpage and see what the next expansion is. Our courthouse will be expanded by 12 courtrooms. And that build-out is supposed to be completed 2028, 2030, somewhere in that ballpark. So you think about it, there's 12 courtrooms going into the Collin County Courthouse. And that means I'm going to have a lot more clerks. I'm going to be a lot busier with managing documents. I mean, there's a lot more going on, more jury trials, right? Yeah. You add more courts, you get more jury trials. So, and that includes county court of law. So I think that's probably the next thing that I'm really campaigning hard on, is to keep up with the growth, because it is going to be a breakneck pace in the next 5 to 10 years.
Yeah. Anything else, Linda?
Yeah, one more. So we've seen some really interesting things around community engagement strategies, be it youth empowerment initiatives, like social media strategies. Do you have anything that you've been kind of working on or looking to implement during your time? You
know, that's a great question too, because I'll tell you, when I first took office, there were so many people said, you know what, we're so fascinated by the story about how you came into office. You need to do your own podcast. So yeah, I'm looking at doing a couple of different areas on that for the district clerk's office, especially. I just really, quite honestly, I've had so many other priorities right now that have taken over precedent, I guess, in my office, that I haven't had time to focus on the social media aspect of it. But yes, I want to do a newsletter, a monthly newsletter, quarterly newsletter, something like that, because I find facts and stats interesting, especially when I talk about how many jurors I summoned, how much we paid those jurors, how much the jurors donated to the charities. That's fascinating to me, to know that we had, last year alone we summoned 280,000 people. That's not how many appeared, but that's how many we actually sent summons to.
Yeah.
Out of those 280,000, we spent well over $700,000 in jury payments, right? That's $20 for your first day, $58 your second day thereafter. So when I look at just all the stats I can push out and make it available to the public, yeah, I mean, I'd love to set up a podcast thing and get one going for the district clerk's office, and then do the same thing where I could get judges behind the mic, I could get other people behind the mic, and go out that way, social media wise. But newsletter of some sort. I'm not a big fan of Instagram, never have been. Not a big fan. I'm on X, but I only look at it. Truth Social, I'm on Truth Social a lot. As far as Facebook, I have my Facebook page as the district clerk, but I don't have a district clerk Facebook page. So again, kind of getting into that social stratosphere, I'd like to. That's kind of the next iteration. Maybe in 2026, when I start campaigning a lot harder, I don't want it to be because I'm campaigning. I want it to be because I want it to be a part of I want to leave that legacy for somebody else to continue if I'm not elected. I want them to hand them the keys, and here you go. Here's your passwords. Here's everything you need to keep this social media site going, to keep the public informed.
Yeah.
That answer your question, Linda?
100%. Yes.
Okay. I want to make sure. I talk and I get all on these tangents. And I just want to make sure I don't talk too much out of your
No,
the
you're
point.
Wonderful. And again, once you find out these creative ways, you have to look back and see how am I touching the public? And you're mailing out that jury summons every week, every 2 weeks to those 280,000 people. On that summons, you could have a QR code for your podcast. You could put your newsletter in that envelope. It doesn't cost you any more money. And now you've instantly got direct mail to a large portion of the people that are directly interacting with you. So
That's a great idea. I'm going to use that.
Yeah.
We already have QR codes on there, but the QR code takes them to the e-response website where jurors log in, put their name and all that. That's a great idea, is to even have a link to that to some social media site as well. To
Absolutely.
say, look, here's how you can keep here's how you can keep informed on what's happening in jury this week, and if you've been assigned to a case or not.
Yeah.
Good point. I'm going to steal that idea.
You can.
Okay.
That's why we're here. It's to share those ways, and it's not only to help the general public understand your role in your office, but to find creative ways for your office to directly reach and provide information to the constituents. And if you're sending out 280,000 pieces of mail every year, use that carrier, use that vehicle to be able to connect with those individuals other than, hey, you need to come to the courthouse for this. Here's some other information you can look at.
Right.
So, all right. Well, thanks for coming in, Mike. Really appreciated having you here today and gained some really valuable insights and learned a lot about the role of the district clerk in Collin County. So thank you for coming in.
It's my pleasure. Thank y'all for having me. This was really and yes, that was I meant to say y'all, okay, because we are in Texas. So thank y'all for having me. You can go back and dice up my grammar however you want to, but I was born and raised in Texas, and I'm not ashamed of the way I say y'all.
Not a problem.
Not at all.
Thanks again, Mike.
Thank you. Appreciate
Thank
it.
you.
Mic check. It's co-file Chris with the clarity, breaking down the system like a tech barbarity. Civic hubs live, surfing knowledge like a tsunami, rolling through the info smooth. Maserati. Civic vibes, we innovate and elevate. Local government shift, let's recalibrate. Tech meets transparency, the gap we abbreviate. Civic hub anthem, come participate. Street lights buzzing, city halls we navigate. Machines in the council throwing out the candidate. Blockchain buzzing, Chris gonna moderate. Algorithm steering votes, lines automate. Plug in, gather round this pod like it's holy. Future blueprint drafted digitally solely. Ideas hatch quick, think it's gotta be Goldie. The Civic Hub thrives where the minds all moldy. Policy precision sharper than a switchblade. Red tape slayer, break it open with the upgrade. AI council, tech dreams don't cascade. We building the future, bricks cut from the data spade.